9 of Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, welcome everybody to our, well, I don't know what this is. This isn't really anything. This is just a show. We're going to be talking about SHOT Show. And we were in a show with Ghost Tactical earlier in the week with some people that had attended SHOT Show for some time, some of them more than a couple of decades plus. So that's always interesting to me. And I figured throw a live chat up here. Doesn't cost much. And we go live for a bit on our biggest soapbox, the Gun Website's YouTube channel. We're broadcasting it or simulcasting it live over on gunchannels.com, community we built a few years back. And we have a text chat over there that people can follow along and be part of this conversation that we're having. We invited a bunch of people that were in Ghost Tactical's chat. However, it is Friday before SHOT Show and everybody's traveling. So we've got the room open. We've got the links out. We'll see if anybody else jumps in, but we've got Jeff jumping in from Gear Report. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And then we got Gary jumping in. I guess you're from, I want to say North Carolina?
I'm from Kansas.
No, not Gary. Sorry,
Jeff.
Yes.
Thanks. And then Gary's jumping in from Kansas. There we go. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, G.
And invited Gary in, even though you haven't attended SHOT for many years, but your show is up next. Foul Territory is another live show that's on Fridays, and I didn't want to just drop a big live show in front of it, especially if we end up stepping on your time slot there and all. So thanks for joining us, and you've been involved in lots of our SHOT Show chats, so any insight you got is always valued. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Glad to help out.
So, Jeff, how long have you been going to SHOT Show?
This will be the 4th year for me, so not a terribly long time, but you know, been long enough that it's lost kind of that newness.
Oh, please, 4 years. Don't underrate that just because there's people out there that have been going for a long time. Half the people that have been going for a long time get paid to be there, so they're getting a paycheck and their company paying for it. So it's not quite so hard to go there when you're actually being paid to be there. But North Carolina, and without getting into all your privacy issues, let's assume North Carolina for 4 years. Think about that plane ticket alone. I know when we went from Tucson to Florida, it cost me like $3,000 to get 3 of us out there and sit in a hotel. And we were in the basic is, you know, the cheapest thing we could do. So times 4, that's, I mean, I'm guessing conservatively $10,000 worth of just travel. So that's awesome. So anyway, so 4 years is a long time. Since it's been at, and then I guess this will be our 14th year. But we had people in the other day that have been going. I'm in Tucson though, so I'm an 8-hour drive from Vegas. Again, set and setting, right? I can get there in in a day, and most of the time we leave and drive overnight and get here, so that we can really do it effectively or efficiently as far as cost wise. And we've had the advantage that I should drink something. We have the advantage here in Tucson, at least, that they've pinned it in Vegas now for 9 years. This will be the 9th year in Vegas. And I like it in Vegas and everything, but I really enjoyed it when it moved around a little bit. So when Ghost just jumped in from Arkansas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And thanks for having that show the other day, because you had a good, diverse panel on. And, you know, like I say, I don't think I would have. I know I've been wanting to do some history of my experiences at SHOT Show for lots of reasons. We'll get into them, I guess. But having the guys on from not just way more experience, like decades more literally, but also from different angles. I think we were talking about that off air, from the industry and from the viewpoint of sitting at a booth. Never even thought about it. I've helped set up stuff before and I've done media, but I've never had to sit there in a booth for 4 days and, you know, had to get up earlier than everyone, walk into the place and sit down and do stuff, you know, work all day long, get up and leave, and sometimes have to go to an after event and still be on the clock probably, or at least be representing the company, and, you know, sit up there on your toes and everything, and then wake up early again and do it all for 4 days. because they don't get to decide when they want to go to a party or if I want to jump to this party to that party. They're there to do their thing. So I never thought about that angle of it. And then they talked about traveling overseas. So all that was interesting. And after the show, Rob Pincus had sent me an email, said, hey, let's do something with, history of SHOT Show or SHOT Show evolution over the years. And then I replied back and asked when, if he wanted to do it before show or not, but I haven't heard back. So I figured I'd just run this show. And a couple of other people, like Jeff, right away said, yeah, let's do it. I sent him an email to like Mike Deddy and Charles Heller, people I know here in Tucson that I figured, might not be getting ready to go up there yet because those guys are old and they only go up there, during the show. They don't go up before the show like some of us. So they both declined, but and also Cheryl. So all the old people, well, I shouldn't call Cheryl old, but all the people here in Arizona at least bailed out on me. But there are a couple other people that I have links out there too that I know they've been going for a while, and they're more than welcome to jump in, even if they're traveling. Ghost, are you driving, or are you? No, you're not driving. You're just
No, I fly out tomorrow at 2:00.
Okay, we don't have to get into specifics, but okay.
Yeah.
So now this will be your second year, and I don't know where we're going to start. I think we're going to start. Well, first off, let me throw that out there. I mean, when I threw it out to you, hey, let's do a SHOT Show history chat. What did you guys bring to the table? What do you guys got? Any ideas what we want to talk about? I shouldn't just necessarily go.
I've only been there a few years, but since I've been there, the first year I went, I think the next pavilion, whatever they call it, the hallway outside the media room that has all of the little stand-up booths,
right,
for the younger companies. Right. I'm thinking that was a fairly new thing the first year that I went. And now, we're a couple years into that. And I got to be honest, that's one of my favorite parts of the whole show. If you said pick one area, this is the only place you get to go for the whole show, I would go to the next. And that's it.
Now, 4 years. So 4 years that you've always had the next out front. It wasn't the nonprofits in booths.
Correct. I think that may have been what was up there like the year before I went.
Okay.
But it's
with 9 years in the same place, earlier when it was bouncing around, it's easier to keep track for me at least, because I can remember, wait, it was the year after that one, and year that before that. When it's in one spot for 9 years, they all bleed together a lot more for me. So I didn't realize it's been 4 years that they've had those stand-up booths. The thing about it, it's so different, is that you're standing in the hallway, obviously, but the nonprofits all just had typical SHOT Show booth up against the wall, so the hallway was totally clear. Like, there was never any traffic in front of the media room like that. Now there's nothing but traffic always, because everybody's standing around, like literally getting paid to stand there. But yeah, the way that they can be so efficient, and because it's in front of the media room, you figure that's strategic, huh? So that we have to go past it every time we go into that room to get free stuff. Because
I don't know if they have any choice in where their booth's going to be, or if they have like a pricing structure. But you would think if NSSF is smart about it, that it gets cheaper the further away you get from the press room.
Maybe, and there's probably something about like closeness to the bathroom. I bet you is cheaper, and maybe farther away from the escalators. But I'll bet you, there's probably like good seats in a movie theater. There's probably more cost for the. Now, have you guys ever? And it doesn't just apply to SHOT Show, I suppose, but just that made me think. Have you guys ever asked people in booths, especially when you have a good relationship with them, like maybe personally or for a long time, how much they're paying for their booth, or give you some general idea? I try to ask every year. I have an idea of what everybody's paying for booths upstairs and downstairs.
I've never asked, but I almost was afraid to last year.
Sometimes they don't want to tell you. I mean, some people get kind of offended. You got to kind of feel it out. But after a while, it bugs me. I'm super cheap, and I'm always curious because, like I say, there's a lot of hidden cost to all this, and so many people would be so easily like, oh, whatever, blah blah blah. There's a heck of a lot of money going around there, and you don't think about it. But let's say $5,000 booth. I mean, let's say, I don't know what the real estate of the booth costs, but let's say to spruce up your booth, whatever the fabrics might be or the signage, if you do something out of wood or metal or glass to display your items. That could easily cost $5,000. I bet you that costs way more than that sometimes. And where does that stuff get made? I'll bet you a lot of times that's being made local, friend of a friend, so it gets done cheap. So that $5,000 might blow it off like, oh, what a waste of money. But yeah, it's $5,000 going into a neighbor's house or into a neighbor's company.
Yeah. If they're $5,000 just to get a basic booth, I bet that they have at least 5 to set the booth up and get everything there. And then the part that I've heard really blows away brands who've never been is when they get the bill, because Vegas is so strongly unionized.
Yep.
That it's like, even if you drive your truck up yourself to the loading dock, you can't unload it. They have Teamsters that unload it, and they hand it off to someone else who are unionized, who take it to where it gets set up and actually set it up. And I think that then the brand can get in and set the product display things up, but the bulk of it has to be done by the union people. And I understand it's really spendy.
Oh yeah, and then like I've heard stories about like getting so petty as like who plugs in something like a extension cord kind of stuff.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, they charge big money to have an outlet.
Or who turns off a switch, like, oh, you don't have that authority or whatever. So yeah, I've heard some interesting stuff. But I imagine that would happen at any facility, right? Any facility that size, at least in any town. So I'm gonna go over to a PDF I found, and you guys can jump in anywhere. Like I say, I don't really have much of an agenda. Just really wanted to have a room open to talk about the history of shot, because we've been talking about shot a lot. People hear shot, 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 and I think there's significance to it as far as us as a gun community and where it plays a role or whatever. So there's this really cool PDF that I found when I was researching a project over on the Minuteman University thing, or the 2A history stuff. And I was curious, where'd SHOT Show come from? And this basically all spells it out, and it's right in here. I won't get into all the words, but all these words in here will tell you that I guess the 1960, there was something called the National Conference of the Shooting Sports, and then the second one was in 1961, and they voted 130-0 that they should do something about it. And then, well, I don't know, there's a bunch of words, but eventually you get to, we'll find this guy who I put in the deck as a 2A activist, or at least somebody that we should be aware of in history, just because it's interesting. But this guy was a writer for Field and Stream, old guy, gone now, but his name is Warren Page. I don't know, Jeff, you're a writer. Have you heard of this guy before? Maybe as a video guy, I don't know writers that I should. But anyway, he was the writer for Field and Stream, and I guess he got up at some point. I think it says in here that he got up in 1960, I guess, and said, "This is something that we could get together as an industry and prevent some of the persecution that they were getting as hunters." So this all kind of also, I'm not going to get into it in this show because I don't want to bother everybody who doesn't want to care about 2A. But when you get into the Second Amendment and the perception and the fights that we've had and the struggles, they come in waves, and they haven't been on the same subject. So for a long time, they were people who were anti whatever, and guns were part of that. Were against hunting and hunters and access to land and stuff. And the NRA gets accused of being a hunting organization. Well, that was because they were trying to get rid of guns because of hunting and stuff. So back in the day when the industry, from what I understand, was having trouble with dealing with hunting excess and I guess potential laws or whatever, that's in the 1960, that's when they got together and decided to network and be stronger together and start an organization for the industry. And anyway, then it became a thing. And then in 1979, they started doing SHOT Show. So I guess for a while it was just an organization, like an industry thing, and it seemed fairly small. I dug through most of this, and it seems like for the most part it was like 8 or 9 people for a long time, just facilitating things so that the industry could be smarter and work more efficiently and all that. And then you get the list of SHOT Shows over here, starting in 1979 in St. Louis with 5,000 attendees.
That's not a small number for just starting, very first out the gate to have an event. That seems like a reasonable number to me.
And in all these words, which I'm not going to sit here and bore you by reading them all, they'll get into this. There were regional trade shows that were similar to SHOT but regional. So there'd be like a Southwest, whatever. And I imagine that probably came from the type of hunting or the, the environments or something. And I guess some of that discussion in 1960 when they established this whole thing, I guess the NSSF, was, do we want to have these competing regional shows? We were kind of talking about it a minute ago with, somebody who goes to a show as an employee, we talked about everything they have to do at SHOT Show. Well, we get to go home from SHOT Show and start doing our thing, living our life. Well, they're packing up that booth into a van or a truck, probably a van, and then they're taking it to another location, maybe a week or two, or if they're lucky, a couple of weeks, so they got some time off, and then they're doing that whole again. And then they're going to put it away and pack it to another location in a van, and then they're going to set it up again and do that again. And some of these people are literally paid to be the traveling, representatives of the companies. So I guess that they had that trouble back then. You've got a company, you're selling a shotgun, your Weatherby or somebody, Remington or somebody, and you've got like 4 or 5 regional shows, and then SHOT comes along and says, hey, we've just, we've facilitated the industry for the last 12 years. Let's have our own SHOT show. Let's have our own trade show. But like I say, in these words, it wasn't a done deal. Like there was some controversy in whether or not it would be useful and whether or not it was like just another log on the fire. But like you say, that wasn't an insignificant number, and it grew pretty quick.
Yeah, I think that we get a little bit jaded today, or maybe take for granted the impact that technology and the ease of information sharing, or even just the ease of doing a show like this. When you step back into the time period when they were forming this and had those regional shows like you described, if you were running a gun shop and trying to figure out what to sell to your customers, you were probably relying on either traveling sales reps to stop by and show you stuff, which would be hit or miss, I'm sure, or going to some show so you could actually talk to the brand. So today I think we still have some of that tradition. I know a couple of my writers are also FFLs, and honestly, they really don't care about talking to the brands today so much because they get all their information electronically. But I could imagine back then that would have been one of the massive differences. Is this was like the primary means of getting timely information, I would think, because after this show, then a bunch of articles will come out in the different print magazines that everyone followed, but there's the publication delay. So for the shop owners to actually be able to get things in and have it in stock and go through that paper ordering process, instead of the instant electronic and you have it in your shop a day or two later, there was a lot more lead time they had to deal with. I imagine this was really critical to those shop owners and just changed the entire vibe and feel of SHOT Show.
I'll tell you something that's kind of new, last year for me. Obviously everything was new for me, but kind of going into the electronics and the electronical age, how many booths did we go to last year that you would see their media marketing person and they would hand you a flash drive. And on that flash drive were videos and pictures and every bit of information about every product they have for you to use in your print media, your videos, whatever. They gave you official videos and pictures and they said, here, use it all you want. So that's kind of cool where, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you were creating some of your own content where they're giving you a lot of content to use. So I thought that's interesting.
Did we lose him?
Maybe. I guess I bored him.
I don't know.
Well, I'm sitting here, I was saying some profound stuff. Instagram heard it, so I was muted. Sorry. But I think what Jeff was saying there, it applies to what Jeff was saying there. So there was the same issue back then, right? Distribution. So there was the same kind of thing that we have now, except it wasn't a flash drive, but you would send, in the mail, probably photographs or whatever taken by your in-house, or you'd have a photographer come by and take fancy pictures for your catalogs and stuff, and then for distribution like that for articles and things. But that allows you to, that facilitates getting a nice picture, but it's not ever getting your hands on a gun or anything. So I think it's a great point, Jeff. And also you got to think about it from the manufacturer. So Smith & Wesson, they're going to make, I don't know how many guns, how many can they make, and how many are people going to buy? So, you know, a factor of that is how they can get them in front of people at stores. I would imagine at some point in this big mess here of years, things like Davidson's and Lipsy's and, you know, the wholesalers came up and the distributors. So they'll go to Colt now that they've got, well, maybe back in the day, that's what they provided a service more for, when there was an ability for like a computer to let Colt know exactly how many store might want. The distributor would get a better idea for a region or an area, and go, okay, well, we're pretty sure we're going to need 1,000 Colts, so let's buy 1,500 of these models. And then, you know, that kind of stuff had to spring up, I would assume, because of the industry getting together again before. I mean, at some point there was even no fax machines, really. Well, maybe fax machines in some of these, but certainly before internet.
Even if you look at it from that perspective that they're giving flash drives away, I mean, honestly, think about it. If you was to use it, how much battery consumption can you save if you use that material in the correct way?
Oh, heck yeah. As content creators, you mean, at SHOT?
Correct.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times they don't care one way or the other, I suppose, but they don't have any problem with you using theirs for sure. You know, they know that the angle's right or the coloring's right, and they're happy with the lighting and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked on some, like the Walther videos, when I do some videos for them, I emailed them. I said, do you mind if I use some of your videos? They're like, go for it, because you know, they spent time and money making those videos, you know, to where their product has looked in their eyes the best it could look. So I think they'd rather have that than some Joe Schmo trying to do a video that might be shaky and all that. At least they're getting quality video out there, you know.
So when we talk about SHOT and the history of it, you know, again, it came from the NSSF. The NSSF started in 1960 when I guess you could say the industry, or maybe the Second Amendment, what do you want to call it? People that were enjoying the Second Amendment in order to go hunting or whatever, were being persecuted or infringed on, or at least pursued or something, because that's, like I say, I haven't had time to do all the history of the laws at the time, but it sounds like the industry got together in 60, and then it looks like NSSF then became useful in other ways to, I guess, consolidate other aspects of the industry, so ranges, firearms retailers, and I know that they do a lot of the, what would you call, like the grease in the wheels, the helping business to get done and helping a gun shop grow and finding them resources and stuff like that.
I thought it was interesting on Ghost discussion a couple days ago, listening to a couple of the guys who had been going to SHOT for a long time, 10, 12, 15 years or more. And I kind of got the feeling from them that historically, it's kind of a somewhat new thing, like the last 8 or 10 years, that media have really not been a part of SHOT. I'm sure that there were writers that went before, but I think probably the streaming platforms that have made it a whole lot easier, or content publication platforms that made it a whole lot easier, have caused a pretty significant expansion of folks going to create content.
Oh, yeah.
That has to be, I mean, if you think from a brand's perspective, if they were initially going, years ago, and it was a business, work with the distributors, work with the dealers, figure out, how much, who's going to buy of what, show them your product, educate them on the products, they know what they want to buy, very much a B2B type situation. Well, we're kind of like the B2C part of SHOT Show, in that when they're talking to us, they're kind of talking to the consumer. We're the middleman that facilitates that communication, but I think that's got to be a really big difference, that there are people walking around that honestly, we represent the consumer.
In a much bigger, I agree 100%. Let's go through it. I can put a magnifying glass on that. So when we look at all of SHOT Show, let me jump over my SHOT Show page here. I've got some pictures over here from the years that I've gone to SHOT, and then this list of the prior SHOT Show years, right? So we've talked about in other shots or in other shows that, and just like Ghost was talking about, at some point these were pictures being taken with film or whatever, and you'd have to be a writer that was at such a level. I mean, they weren't paying people the way they were now for articles and magazines. That's a relatively new phenomenon, but you know, you'd have to be a writer with quite a few means in order to get to SHOT Show, and then there was fewer of them. So I don't know when the transition went from writers to television, but it probably was whenever we went from regular broadcast television to cable, which would have been what, in the 80s. And then I think, when did we start to see the like outdoor shows on cable? And is that the 90s or was that the 80s?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember when we started to see, like, you know, the outdoor channel and then like the hunting shows on Saturdays and stuff. So when I first started going to SHOT in 2005, I can tell you that I probably have some pictures in here of the media room. The media room was the same room. Well, it was a different room, you know, different convention center. It was the same, you know, same big room in an area, but it was just a bunch of tables with stuff on it. And there was a couple of couches, and there was a big whiteboard or maybe a chalkboard that they wrote stuff on. You know, Peters weren't the same as now. And then they wrote stuff on a whiteboard, and then there was like donuts there once in a while, but like only in the morning. And then in 2005, at least, they had like 4 computers, and they were like to print things, because you had to print waivers and things to be in photographs back then. So you'd have, there was internet, but there was nothing to do on the internet in 2005, really. There was no urgency to put it anywhere. Even if you could, you really had nowhere to put it. So there were a couple of bloggers that were using the computers there. But for the most part, the media room was filled with writers, people that were there to write. And occasionally they'd have a camera or something. But again, cameras were kind of big in film back then. My digital camera was not inexpensive, but it was, you know, $100 or $200 back then. And that was a half a megapixel. I don't even know if they called them megapixels back then. They were crazy, fuzzy, blurry pictures and stuff. But pulling one of them out in front of somebody at a booth was difficult. And I've talked about, you know, the progression from 2005. It probably took us till about 2007 or even 8 before people were comfortable with someone taking pictures with a digital camera. And then this is when you started to see, 2008 for sure, you started to see a lot of big film crews. Like, they would block off the whole thing and kind of stand around and put a big giant video camera on a tripod and take somebody over and throw lights on them, or take a booth over and throw lights on whoever and do some kind of interview. And I'm guessing that was for the cable TV shows, but it's like somehow they kicked in 2008. They would bring a big semi-truck trailer in, and that was their thing. So I think they were like going live from the show, or at least getting live coverage from the show that would be broadcast, you know, relatively soon. And that was a big deal back then, because like you said, there's usually like August or something, you'd get the, you know, whatever the pace of publications are is when you'd get stuff. So within the 5 and 6, we had forums. AR-15 was a big forum, and then there was dozens of little offshoots, because AR-15 was so angry and hostile. There were smaller forums, and those people, and then sometimes they're in areas of interest or areas of the country, and people there would always be interested in SHOT Show stuff. So you'd have a few law enforcement guys, some military guys, some guys that were basically photographers that would go, and again, they would take their pictures, and some of them were still, I don't think they were developing, but they're certainly taking forever to post their pictures. Where our deal at the beginning, once we got our legs after 2005, was to just get the pictures up. So we spent a majority of our time back then just getting pictures up, and that was a big deal, and that was freaking people out. There was more than one instance of somebody getting pissed because we put a picture out too fast, because they weren't used to that yet. And it was okay if like somebody they knew, like, you know, they had come up for like some reason, but when somebody would just walk up and take a picture without them realizing, or, you know, not realizing that it was what the effects of that was going to be. So in 2007 and 6, we started to see that transition where they started to understand that the internet was a facet or whatever. In 2009 is when we started doing video. So we probably went from, you know, 200 or 300 pictures at each SHOT Show with like, and our crew went from 2 people, probably 2 people to 5 people. And then 3 people, because it was Florida. Then we probably brought 7 of us. and then it was like 5, and then 2012 everything changed, or excuse me, 2013 everything changed with YouTube. So now we went down to 2 people again from then on. But 2009 was in Florida. So 2006 was Vegas, 7 was Florida, 8 was Vegas again, and this was the last year at the Real Convention Center. This was the best SHOT Show that ever happened right here. Then you get 2009, our first year with video, and you still only had at 2007 there was no video. 2008 you had like SMG Lee and Milspec Monkey making video, and it was kind of a pain in the ass. Like they would need to take over a booth too, because the cameras were shitty and you needed lighting and stuff to be able, and they were perfectionists. They wanted to get good pictures because they had a lot of people interested in their pictures. We seen that was effective, so we got cameras and brought them in 2009. I think we did like 140 videos this year. But again, we only had 2 people, 1 camera and 2 of us, so a bunch of pictures. And that was kind of when we transitioned from blogging, which was basically like in 2005 and 6 and 7, we were just taking pictures and posting them on other people's forums, basically, and then this website. But then in 2008, we started to, actually it was still forums then. 2009, we had a YouTube channel and the videos and everything, so we started to post them on YouTube, and that's when things changed. So in 2010, we're back in Vegas in the first year at Sands, and it was weird. So nobody liked Sands, and we just got back from awesome Florida, which was really awesome. And we got back to the dungeon, and everybody was just a shitty show. Nobody knew nothing was. They chopped it up in all these different rooms. So that was a tough show, but I think we got maybe, I did a video on all this because 1 year back here, I went back and looked, but it was something like, let's say 340 videos probably. Like we kicked the shit out of it, but we had 7 people and we all brought cameras. And so there's another facet to it. In 5, you couldn't even get a picture from somebody. Like we had to know people, and like we had to con our way into it. We had to literally have disclaimers that they'd have to sign and stuff. 6, it got a little easier, and like I said, they kind of figured out, they were getting a little startled when stuff would go online, but the people who knew us were like, "Oh, you're gonna get this online, right?" Like, so we started to know people, and they were like, "Oh, you come over here and take pictures of our stuff, get it online tonight." 2008, we were still kind of in that competitive mode, and then things changed and it went to YouTube. So at this point, people in 2008, people knew what pictures were. They were okay with it. They kind of probably thought we were airsofters or somebody trying to steal their designs to, create clones or something of them. By 8, they knew what was going on. Forums and stuff were established, and people almost didn't quite have media people at the booth, but the bigger booths had somebody who knew what forums were, and wouldn't mind if you just stood there taking pictures all afternoon, or for like a half an hour. Like I say, 9 was video, and that was tough. We got a lot of video, but not anywhere near as much as we could if we didn't have to explain everything to everybody, and we didn't have our shit together. So in 2010, we figured it out, and we had gone to SHOT NRA show and stuff in between these. So what we figured out was, here's a tip for anybody taking video: don't explain nothing. Fewer the words is better. They're at SHOT Show. They all know what the deal is, and they know what your deal is because you got a media pass on. You're holding the camera. So in 2009, we were trying to explain the world to them and mansplain the whole thing, and we'd lose them. 2010, we'd say, "Do you mind if I turn on my camera while you run through your spiel?" Or like while you run through the description, or the next time you run through it. And then you go, "Oh, okay, no problem." And then if they go, "Oh," you could almost 99% of the time it's because they don't want to be on camera. When they go, "Oh," you go, "Oh, I'm just going to film your hands." And then they go, "Oh, yeah, I don't care." So that's how you get 300 and something videos in SHOT Show. 2011, YouTube is paying us. So we go back with a vengeance, kick the crap out of it. Hundreds of videos again. By then, everybody knew what videos were, no big deal. But here's the thing, you had either 2 lines. I think this is when Nothing Fancy started to go. You got your 45-minute, I'm going to take your time, and your booth. Like a lot of these guys, when they would do a booth video, they'd kind of form a perimeter. Like they'd either have their crew, or they'd literally put stuff in the way so that people wouldn't walk in front of their video, because you don't want anybody walking in front of your video at a super crowded show, right? So they get so worried about all this that they literally shut down a booth for a while. It was sort of like everybody kind of saw what the potential was, and they thought like, "Hey, let me get in on this." But like you say, they're spending good money to be there, and they've only got 4 days. So when you start taking 45 minutes of their time, And it's not just 45 minutes, come here, let me talk to you. It's like 45 minutes, let me shut down your booth. So nobody gets to experience your booth for 45 minutes? I mean, how many minutes do they even have at this show?
So how many media, you talked about a lot of cool things, but I'm curious how many media, because the note that I saw recently from NSSF said we have shut down, or no, I tried to log in and check something on their attendee site. And when I went to look at the media page, it said, it wouldn't let me get in at all. It said, we've already closed out. We've hit our limit of 2,500 media. So how many do you think there were back at these other ones?
That's an awesome question. And I wish they would tell you. I imagine there's got to be a resource somewhere. And that's one of the questions I think I might ask them this year to know if they are archiving it somewhere. I've had good luck. Like when I go in and do my kind of sprucing things up or whatever each year, I kind of fiddle around with these things. You know, it's not like a priority or anything. Like I was looking recently to, why it's taking so long. So I've been going in there and putting in like what days of the week it was, because that's something else. Like for the longest time, SHOT Show was, well, sometimes it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Sometimes it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And they kept flopping it over a weekend like that. And then the last day was, or the first, you know, like whatever day Monday was or Tuesday was worse than Fridays are now. And there was a couple of years I was trying to dig through and figure out, because I don't watch sports. One of these years, or two of these even, Super Bowl happened while we're in the middle of SHOT Show. And I'm oblivious to sports, but, you know, you can't help it when there's people yelling and screaming all in unison from all around. And there's beer everywhere. Like whenever it was SHOT Show, whenever it was Super Bowl, everybody'd have beer at their things, like kegs. So everybody's drunk and the place smelled like beer. And nobody was doing any business because everybody was just huddled around TV screens watching the Super Bowl. And that was always kind of, I mean, like I said, I think that happened twice that I've experienced it. So the number of media is a good question. I don't know. The media room didn't start getting busy until like 13, 14. So the way I see it is we got video, we got faster internet, we got people that were able to bring SHOT. You know, by 12 or 13, we were already doing live by 13 and 14. Well, I know we were doing live by 12 on Quick, but it was shitty. By 12 and 13, we had Hangouts already. So we were doing live each evening from there. So we would be able to not necessarily go live from SHOT, but I know, you know, I'm still kind of going back and trying to, like I said, they all meld together when they're all at the same location. But right. One of these years, like we were talking about it in another show, I remember running in and doing the governor. That was like my thing. I'm gonna go. That
really didn't sound good.
But you know, getting pictures of that Smith & Wesson governor when it first came out, I just always hated the stupid judge. So I was like, okay, great. Smith & Wesson finally pulled a Taurus on Taurus, right, and made a governor. So I was gonna run over there and be the first to get pictures of that, just cause, you know, it was something to do. And I have to go back, and I want to track my phones too, because somewhere I know that in 5 it was like flip phones and garbage. And somewhere in here, I got an Android. Was that our first smartphones? And then when I got like, I forget that other phone I had for a while, but man, I thought I was at, you know, a tricorder level. I thought I had the best phone ever. And now I'm using these ones that I can't even remember my old phones, right? So at some point in here, we moved to phones. So there's so many different things that are going on here, but it was really in this era where, you know, we go from the tech and the ability to get to SHOT started to change, because it is easier to get to SHOT for everybody in Vegas. There's just, you know, it's cheaper to get there, it's cheaper to stay there. So you get people that are seeing that we're doing stuff, or other people are doing stuff at show, and it's accessible. They probably did. You make a good point, Jeff. They probably did start to open it up, because that's, as they see the value of internet media, the companies there are like, let internet media in here. We don't need to talk to authors who take 45 minutes of our time bugging us about every petty detail, and then we don't see a result for 6 months, and we probably got to pay for that result, right, half the time. And then only so many eyes are going to see it, where I can talk to so-and-so big fancy YouTuber, and tomorrow afternoon there'll be a video up, and I'll have numbers, I'll have analytics on it. So so that's where we start to see a definite change. And then once you get to like 14 and 15, you guys have experienced it for that. And you don't have to go to SHOT Show. You've all experienced SHOT Show in a much different way, like Jeff was talking about, as audience. And that's something else I want to just throw in there, is that the aspect that, shit, I was going to say, we're talking about covering the show from as the creator side, but there's the audience angle on it, and then there's the booth angle on it, and their angles have changed. So once they figured out, and I guess I thought that was interesting, so I was going to touch on that, and then I'll shut up and let other people talk. But from the booth side, going through those years, they hated everything about everything. You had to con them into it. You barely got them to take pictures. Okay, they're fine with pictures. They know who you are. We've made relationships. That probably helped. Oh, now you want to take video? What the hell? Okay, I know what video is. No problem. Oh, that was easy. Oh, that was effective. And you get a couple of years of like, come back to my booth. Like there was years when they were begging me to come back. You know, after you do 300 and something videos and you're the second biggest channel on YouTube, they want you back at their booth, right? But then what happens is you get, I don't know, you get all kinds of different things we can talk about. But so those booths, it isn't like a consistent thing on the booth side. So while it was real difficult for them at first, they're growing, and they're not consistent in their appreciation or their reluctance or their any of these, you know, concepts on people walking by with cameras. Some of them are still old, what I want to call like SHOT Show FUDs, where they're like, you ain't taking no pictures of my booth. I don't care if you got a yellow badge. And then there's people that, like you say, like Ghost was saying, they have a social media person who's literally getting paid to be aware of, and they'll walk up and you'll walk up and they'll be like, oh, I know who you are. You know, I follow social media. I'm getting paid to pay attention to you. Like, thank you for showing up and that kind of thing. So there's that gambit in between. And I just wanted to say that, I guess, to close it then, because of that experience with seeing it change and whatever, I just know that we have influence, and we can learn a lot from each other. So that I was kind of telling these guys the other day, stuff that took me like 6 years to learn, just dumb stuff like don't go to North Las Vegas to stay. Like that's something that you don't need to ever have to go to North Las Vegas to realize you don't want to stay in North Las Vegas. Right? That's the kind of advice you can take and not have to go experience it in order to understand that.
Like the Fremont area or further north? Yeah,
exactly. If you go on the other side, mainly not because it's a bad neighborhood, you can't carry there. There's certain cities in Las Vegas or Nevada that existed before Nevada was Nevada, so they don't have what's that called, where the cities have to do what the state says. There's cities in Nevada that get to say no carry, even though the rest of the state we have carry in. So I just didn't like the idea that I wasn't supposed to carry going back to my hotel. But just little dumb stuff like that. But in bigger things, like I said, and I guess I didn't preface this whole show, but I'm getting more and more antsy after every year I go that we've got the potential to just watch what happens and get really, really good at archiving what happens at SHOT. But I'd like to focus or keep the focus, at least people aware that we have influence. We have influenced SHOT Show. And the same way that we've influenced it with our tech and our ability to take data and put it out there, we have the ability, I believe, to influence the amount of time they spend on the Second Amendment and the amount of effort they put into it. And then I just got to throw one thing out there, and then I will shut up. I promised it a couple of times. When you first mentioned the difference between an internet person walking up and the author. An author can do whatever he can do, and he can be successful, but I don't know how much he can possibly suggest that he can get feedback compared to somebody who's online that has and I'm going to keep using this word, intimate relationship with their followers, whether that be readers or viewers or listeners. You have all these tools. We have all these tools that we use to talk to our listeners and our viewers and our people that communicate with us in these chats and in real life and all the follow-ups. So we have intimate knowledge of our users' preferences. And even if we don't like something, we know what they like. So yeah, when we walk up and talk to somebody, it's new media to talk to somebody at a booth, realize that you have much value to them. It's somebody with I can tell you, as someone who has 160,000 subs, I don't have any clue what 160,000 people like. I know what I can put in front of 160,000 people and color it blue. And if I color it orange, I can tell you which one they're going to like more. But you know a lot more about, how this accessory for a Mark II or how this like Walther base plate is going to go over with the people who shoot competitively. And that's the kind of feedback they pay big money for. So we've got lots of value as press walking around. In addition to our cameras, we're bringing our experience with our reach, right? Whatever that might be out there. And that means all the people that are watching this have influence over us. were walking around shot. That's had to change. Back in the day, the media was a bunch of cameras walking around or a bunch of pencils walking around. And how much would, if they went to a gun shop or a gun show every single day, they couldn't have the kind of info that we all have or that we all share on these kind of communications. Now I am shutting up. You guys can just take that right.
So range day happens and people get video up that evening because we can't do it from the range with no real connectivity. And then by the time we hit the show floor on Tuesday, there could actually be things that have changed in the market, you know, in terms of you look at some of the bigger outlets and the reach that they have. It could be that a brand is prepared to talk about a certain thing in a certain way to a certain number of people on Tuesday, and something explodes, you know, really takes off. I mean, not physically explodes at range day, but, you know, some video or pictures from range day really get some traction and go someplace. And next thing you know, things have changed and there are a lot of people wanting information about it. And, you know, I mean, things are happening quick. And you were talking about, you know, the writers with their pencils and having to go develop film after the show. It's going to be a month or 3 before their stuff comes out. And today it may not even be the end of the day.
No, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people
now, not only are we live, we can walk up to their booth live. They're comfortable. They understand it. And they're probably willing and able to, you know, prepared for it. Totally different.
I think a lot of it comes down to, I think that they understand the power that we have, because, I mean, I can't imagine some of the marketing dollars that they save, honestly, as a company. Let's say Glock would save with the amount of coverage that the 43X is going to get in the next week. They don't have to go out and promote their stuff because they're going to have 2,500 cameras that are going to be promoting the 43X for them. So there's probably saving marketing dollars because they know that they're getting free advertising from us. And so I think they probably build that into some of their budgets, I'd have to imagine.
Definitely changing their budgets, right?
And then you were talking about, I remember back when you were talking about when Glock, you know, with the whole coup with the 40 Smith & Wesson, you know, they literally sent pictures to, and they said,
let's take a second and remember that yesterday in 1990 was the birthday of the 40 caliber or the 40 Smith & Wesson. So yesterday in 1990, they debuted the 40 Smith & Wesson at the, who made that? Winchester Federal. And then we're like, ooh, wow, ooh. And then we're going to put this in the Smith & Wesson gun eventually. Like this is this new caliber that you're all going to love. And then Glock's like, oh, that's interesting. He walks over there. They give him one. And he walks back and he's like, go make this into a gun. And they bring out the Glock 22. And that happens before any other gun. That was the best story ever. But yeah,
that's a great story.
Is 40's birthday, and it's 9 years old today. It's 9 years old. So 40 beats 9.
Yeah, 40 whatever.
9. Once again. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
You noticed you said 40 is 9 years old. So
it is. It beats 9.
It's 9.
9 today.
No. 40 is 9. Doesn't beat 9. Anyways, no. What I was just saying is, I think that there's possibilities for stuff like that all over the place. I mean, and I've had companies, and I know everybody else here has probably as well. Hey, take this video, but please don't release it until a certain date because we don't want people. We're waiting on a patent and it's not necessarily patent protected. And we don't want people to get information ahead of time. And then next thing they show up and they've got something that's shot just like theirs. And so, you know, I think that there is a real market for utilizing social media. And then, like you said, more importantly, I think Jeff said it, you know, we can go live or at least get them that night from range day. And then by that morning, they might have, you know, 100 different videos out there by 100 different people on their product that they just released on range day. And at least they'll have analytics. They'll see who's interested. How many views are out there already about our blah, blah, blah product X. And they'll at least have some sort of analytics on Tuesday morning before SHOT Show even really starts. They'll have an idea of the excitement or the unexcitement, you know?
Yeah, I doubt they have time to read. I mean, that's true, but I doubt they have time to read numbers just because it's so busy or whatever. But it's always fun as an individual content creator to be the first or to have biggest. And we pay attention to the numbers. I'm going to play host for a second because Mike jumped in. North Carolina, right?
South Carolina.
Dang it. Got too many Carolinas going on.
Well, technically, he's in North Carolina.
Oh yeah, technically right now I'm in Charlotte, so yeah, I'm in North Carolina at the moment.
Right on. So thanks for jumping in. And then Clover, I'm assuming you're in on route someplace as well, jumping in from somewhere in Texas, maybe?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason in Oklahoma.
Right on. So got people all over the country. And let's bring it back to, we're going to have a saturation of kit, right? Saturation of stuff. So I don't mind talking about it in relation to, you know, the SHOT Show history or the growth or development or where SHOT Show's going. But just to add into what you guys are saying, a couple of things. One, the Taurus came out with a 20 gauge judge. I don't know if you remember when that happened. I'm trying to remember myself because I didn't get up there the day that it was up there. But let's say SHOT opened on, it was in Sands, so I was talking about how SHOT used to fluctuate what days it was. When it moved to Sands, it went to Tuesday to Friday, and it's been Tuesday to Friday for 9 years. So it was a Tuesday. It was the first day of SHOT, and it was one of many. And this was a year we had, when you do 340 videos, that's like zones. Like everybody has a thing to do. So we had things to do, and that, you know, just wasn't a priority or whatever. We didn't get up there. And anyway, they put it out on the floor. It's illegal, so they pulled it hours into being on the floor. So you know, at least it wouldn't sell in this country. I mean, it's not illegal. It would be illegal to import as a gun. So, you know, it'd have to be a short shotgun or something. So anyway, that kind of thing. Talk about a black eye. If it would have been back in the day, and it would have just been a bunch of pictures being developed, and 8 months later, here's a bunch of pictures coming out, and all the, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore because they get immediate feedback, right? Like 2 seconds after the show starts, somebody can go, here's click, click, click. And it was mostly because people were taking pictures of it, and all commotion went on the forums, from what I remember that one.
I got a question for you, because you're talking. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I was going to follow up with, now let's not forget also that tonight is Friday, and it is the Friday before SHOT Show, and this has significance. In 2015, we were minding our business, having a show, and I think it was just I used to do a Friday show back then, probably. So I think I was live. At least I was on somebody's show. It doesn't matter. So we were sitting around minding our business right around this time of day on Friday, and this little memorandum comes out from the ATF that it's now a federal offense to shoulder a brace. That if you pull a brace to your shoulder, you've manufactured a short barrel rifle, a gun. So I guess rifle. So that happened at 5 p.m. on Friday, and literally, like now, there's people traveling to get there. And the industry is on its way to go do its thing. And braces were kind of a new thing at the time in 15, where they come out in 13. So that was a pretty big thing. And getting back to what we're talking about as far as influence on SHOT, the ATF has a booth downstairs that's always in the same place, and it's 3 or 4 booths. It's not small, and they have their regulatory people there, not their enforcement people, their regulatory people, so that they can answer questions for the industry, for the gun shops that might be walking around. If there's some, question or whatever, they have done interviews. I usually try to do an interview with ATF each year if they're there. So that year, it was definitely an interesting situation at the ATF booth. What was the other one? There was another time when there was a little bit of commotion, and then, of course, last year, they weren't there, right? And the year before that, I don't think they were there. So this year with the bump stocks, I'm wondering, has anybody got ATF on there?
Well, that's exactly what I was getting ready to bring up. Is I wonder if they're going to be there this year with all the hoopla of the bump stock, because they haven't. I know they weren't there last year. Obviously, I didn't know that they weren't there 2 years ago. But I know they weren't there last year.
The government.
Could it be because they don't want to be in front of media that could go live right there and not be prepared to make a statement publicly? I mean, I don't know.
There's a government shutdown, so they could use that as an excuse that they're not
Sure.
in the industry representing, the industry trade show, that in regulation or whatever, that department isn't there. Like, I mean, they're there to enforce. They're there to. NICS is still working, right?
As far as I know.
About a gun, but okay. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. That getting it back to influence on the show.
So when I started doing these in 2016, because Gear Report's been around since I guess 2008, I started doing some kayak reviews. 2009, doing more camping stuff. It wasn't until the end of 14 that we even started doing guns at all. So 16 is when we first started going to the big events. And I remember was it NRA, walk up to a booth looking at some cool stuff and ask the guy, hey, we'd like to do a video, we'll edit, get it published tonight. And it was like a panic. 5 guys in the booth. Everyone was like, not it. And they finally put someone in front of the camera. He was sweating bullets. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. And to me, as the outsider at that point, I mean, it was the first time I'd been to a show and shot video in a booth. I'd done a couple that day, but that was it for me. I just assumed from all the videos I had seen, you mentioned, Nothing Fancy and some of the people before that were going around doing videos, all the videos that you had put out over the years, you have that perspective of kind of seeing it start and helping people along to understand it. But me coming in from the consumer side, at that point, it just seemed normal to me. Like, of course, that's what the people in the booths are going to be there for. I mean, honestly, the very beginning, when I started going, I was almost even oblivious to the business to business stuff going on. All I cared about was, media's here to get footage, So it's just interesting to me hearing the history of where the show came from and understanding the goals that people had in the past. How I perceived it when I started going is very, very different.
Oh yeah, and I think that's an interesting way to look at it too. So let me go back, because for me it's easier to visualize it looking at the numbers here. So when I'm going back to 12, let's use 12 as a waypoint. So we know what happened at the end of 12. So 13, Wednesday was or will be, I forget, one of these Wednesdays or Thursdays is the anniversary of Obama doing his 23 executive actions, or at least announcing them. And I remember right, that happened at SHOT. So that was 2013. Oh, wow. So that one was a big year for, kind of a holler, I don't know what to call it, over the show. It was like an interesting show. There was the Resistance. So 14 was a different show, right? 15, we had the Brace, and we had, recent experience with Resistance during 13. So these were some interesting years as far as using those as a waypoint. And then I'm going to go down to 2009, which was the last year it was in Florida, just because that gives us some relations. So when it was in Florida, again, this is our first year with a camera. This is probably the second or third year that cameras were even at SHOT, period. Our video cameras were even at SHOT, period. So by 2010, like I say, it was all about the finesse. It was all about letting them know they didn't have to do anything different, and that the result of it would be a video. And they understood what a video was, but like you say, they weren't there to be spokesmodels or something. They were there to do their normal booth stuff with a human being in front of them, and to be able to make a mistake or something. They obviously there was a perception of oh, I'm putting something permanently on the internet, and that's a big deal. That's going to be there forever. Now people are live constantly. Nobody really has that significance to doing something like that. And like you say, there's hundreds of thousands of videos from booth reviews, so it's not like you're the first or one of the few. Nowadays, you ask somebody to do a booth review, they don't care. Like you say, it's kind of already commonplace. But the other aspect to it was once you start getting, so 2012, at the end of 2012, the big stuff happened. And then 13, so in 11, is it 11 when Hickok shot the pumpkins? And 12, like Nothing Fancy was the biggest YouTube channel. I was the second biggest gun channel. I mean, FPS Russia was there, but as far as real gun videos, and that was basically because I had been going to SHOT and doing all these booth reviews and stuff, and I was doing the reviews and stuff. And then we get to 13, and by now Nothing Fancy is already saying like, oh, I don't need to go to SHOT anymore and this kind of thing. A couple of people were maybe in their first or second year of SHOT. So by 14 and 15, there was a different amount. Like when you asked how many people were there, I'm wondering what the ratio was, because at this point the ratio had to be internet heavy, and now we dominate. I mean, if there's writers there, nobody knows that they're there because they don't make any noise. There's no consequence of them there. Where, we, like we've just said, we're preaching the choir. Everybody knows the kind of presence or the kind of results that we can get. in these first couple of years, I want to say around here, it was different because we all saw it as a opportunity, like a big field of ripe tomatoes, and it was like, who can go, and you only wanted the first tomato or something. Like we were all trying to grab the first one, or be the first, or at least get the I don't know. So that it seemed like there was the doors open, everybody ran in kind of situation. Where now, because it's not new, or there's not so few of us doing the videos, and it's so, everybody's going to do videos with you, that there's not that rush, I guess. And I don't know if that had something to do with the audience as well. It's not like these people come and go and only watch SHOT Show coverage once. So if somebody started watching SHOT Show coverage, I don't know, somewhere back here, then this is their 7th or 8th year watching SHOT Show coverage. This is their 3rd or 4th year watching SHOT Show coverage. They probably have a different interest in what they're watching, right? And now maybe they don't care if it's the first, they want to see the most complete, or they don't care if it's first, they want to see the one that has to do with the competitive shooting angle, or they want to see the shotgun that has the wood like they like on it, not just the first pictures of it. Is that an aspect of it?
Could be, certainly. Yeah, and so I don't want to go off track here from what you were saying, but I think it's kind of relevant. And I just posted a question on the Industry Range Day Facebook page, because we're talking about connectivity and the ability to go live, the ability to share pictures or videos kind of on the spot. And I've had luck climbing up behind the long range area, up on top of that hill where the wind's whipping like crazy. And if I hold my phone just right, I can get enough data coverage. I can push a couple pictures up, but that's it. So now I'm looking at the map for range day, and there's actually in the map key, there's a little symbol for Wi-Fi information. And there's I see where it is on the map up there by the archery demo, like across from where Vista sets their stuff up usually, I think. But there's not a word on the website. I searched for Wi-Fi on the Range Day website, and it's not mentioned at all. So that could be a game changer if there is sufficient Wi-Fi to actually do something from the range. I mean, that changes strategy for us, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let me jump in. Oh crap, this stopped. Try to lock on my screen this time. I'll lock on the correct screen this time. There we go. So yeah, so the range, I'm going to switch to satellite. So I'm in map still. Here's Vegas, and the SHOT Show is up here in the Sands Convention Center. When you go to Vegas, look for that big green, and it's right next to that. So the range, though, is down here. Where am I going? It is down by Boulder City, and the dam, the Hoover Dam, is right over here. So normally, back in the day, you would drive from Vegas down this road through Boulder City, and that's a speed trap, so you're going to have to slow down. And then you get over here, and it's kind of fun, and you go over and you see the dam. And then back in the olden days, the lake would have water in it. So now they decided, screw all their speed traps or whatever, so they built this new road. And they've been building it for, I don't know, a long time, but now they finally finished it. Now if I'm going to flip it over to satellite view, and we're going to start scrolling in, and we'll scroll in, and look at what we see over here.
Yeah.
So this is this massive, awesome public range out here. It started out when I first started going to the media day in 6. It was like this big, right? And then it got a little bit bigger. There was this, but they didn't, I mean, it was like this, and then you'd walk for a while, and then you were over at that like roof. This is that roof.
Yeah,
with the
long range.
With like all the cement and stuff. This stuff then wasn't really there. And then the shotgun stuff was down here for the longest time. Then they made it bigger and everything. So every year it's gotten a little bit bigger. But let's forget about that highway. And now you see it's way over there. Boulder City, which isn't that big, is way over there. And then there's giant Vegas way over there, right? So it's sort of like out in the middle of nowhere. And this is nothing. This is mountains and the Colorado River. So you get out here, and now that big yellow line is this new highway they just finished. And I mean, it seems like it cuts the berm. I guess it technically doesn't, but I don't think they've actually got the highway in here. It's just some fake lines right now. This isn't a real satellite map. But I was thinking, because the highway's there, I've driven the highway now. There's no loss of cell coverage. So they must have put towers up for the highway. So I'm wondering if we're not going to be able to get the benefit of that. Now we are kind of in a hole,
nice,
but the highway goes into holes too. So I'm hoping that they put up some cell towers and maybe we'll get some coverage. That being said, I've always wondered, because they're not idiots. I mean, they know that it would be better if they brought, and they've got to have like a van. You know that vans are awesome, and there's got to be some kind of a van with an antenna that they could put out there for the event to give us cell towers. But I'm wondering if they don't want us to go live in case of like something negligent happens and whatever. They don't want that live, right? But they also haven't ever said don't go live. So I don't know if they're just depending on technology to suck, or if they just, maybe I'm overthinking things.
Yeah, we'll see if they answer. If they, I mean, at this point on a Friday night, a couple days before the event, I'm guessing they're not going to answer. But I'd be curious to hear, have they thought that through? Is it just, well, no, it's in the middle of nowhere. The signal's not strong enough. We're not going to pay $50,000 to set up a portable, hotspot for you guys. So
it might be that much, yeah. But on the other hand, this is industry, so I'm sure somebody'd be jumping at the chance to sponsor that. And if not one person, 10 people would jump at the chance to sponsor it. I mean, literally, water's sponsored, hand wipes are sponsored. You don't touch anything at Media Day, and almost the pieces of brass are sponsored, right? Like everything's sponsored here.
So I'm curious, the reason why people go to range day, talking about how things have changed. First time I went, it was looking to get video that we could edit and share that day to give people kind of a feel for what was there. Now, I've told all my guys, we're turn and burn at range day. Go in, shoot something, get pictures of you shooting it, get some video of you shooting it, get on to the next one. And it's a photos and B-roll opportunity for us. I've told them all, no meetings, unless there's nothing left to shoot that interests you. Don't even look at the non-shooting booths. You can talk to them on the show floor.
See, now that's, Ghost will tell you in Clover, it's pretty much verbatim what I told them. Like, don't waste your time. You got time there. Shoot, pull triggers, leave those booths alone. They're like, nope, we're talking to the people in the booths. And they had success with the booths. But yeah, that's the same advice I gave them.
Well, but then you look at the other side of, why did they have success? Maybe because so few people would even look at them that the ones that did got some more attention. So I think you got to be strategic. And if you go through the list of non-shooting booths and see, well, here's a brand I'd really like to work with, maybe it is worth going to talk to them because no one else is willing to do it. So therefore you stand out. If it's a relationship thing done strategically, go for it. But
I think a lot of it is like, for me, it was just talking to some companies that I'd never seen before. Some were veteran kind of owned and all that. So I always had a discussion with them, but there was one in particular that was just, I swear I left there with like 100 targets. And it sounds crazy, but guess what I use when I go to the range now? I use targets that were given to me for free at range day. So, I mean, was it a business thing or relationship? No, but there is some value to some of that stuff. But I'm using range day this year as more like B-roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, it changed. I don't remember. I'm going to go look right now and see if it'll tell me if I can do a quick internet search, or if anybody's out there wants to participate, you're able to ask questions and be part of this conversation and help research stuff if you want. But I'm going to see if I can figure out when the first media day at the range was. Mine was, we went and then we didn't know it was a thing to get invited to until we got invited to it, kind of thing. We got invited by K-Bar, I think. And it was the shit back in the day. It was really nice. You'd go out there and there was nobody there. It was almost empty, so it wasn't a big as thing as now. And so you'd shoot as much as you wanted. It was like High Vis was out there one year. I remember when the Vector was brand new. But whatever, there would be a couple of brand new things, some sites or something that you'd be shooting. But because there was so few people showing up, and I think for a while there, they were probably at risk of not even doing it anymore, because I mean nobody would show up. Very few people, dozens and dozens of people would be there. I remember, like say I've always been into AKs, so K-Bar was at the very, very south end of the thing, and it wasn't anywhere near as big as it was today, but writers are always been fat. So even being smaller, whatever was at the extremes was getting neglected, and it just happened. So even though it was like a tiny portion of what it was today, if I had that map open still, it was like 7 bays. People wouldn't go all the way down to that last bay, because it would be like shotguns, which they probably didn't care about or whatever, and then AKs, and they just didn't care about that stuff, so they didn't go down there. The result of that was me and Joe basically, they didn't want to bring the ammo home, you know, they'd lug it all back. So we just sat there BSing and shooting all day long. It was awesome. And then I'm not a meat eater, but they would have that big tent thing, you know, for the food. You'd have tables in there with tablecloths and napkins and stuff, like not, you know, paper napkins, but still like places set. And then everybody had a complete list of whoever the magazine publisher was. So we'd come out of there with, you know, whatever the complete set of that month's magazines were for what with the publisher that might be doing 12 magazines or something. Super nice food, like well catered, all the food you could eat. And again, nobody showed up. They always had more than they needed. So, you know, people were eating plenty, and you'd go out and you'd shoot again. And it was much more casual. And then as, I don't know, I'm looking at those numbers again, probably, again, as the swell of internet / YouTubers, because we were really the swarm of them. There was bloggers, there's always been bloggers, but I think the audiences came with YouTube, and then more YouTubers came with audience. I think that's probably Clover saying he dropped out. What we get is Media Day went nuts. It went from kind of like a Catalina wine mixer to like, you know, the Catalina wine mixer mixed with the Dukes of Hazzard. It just went crazy. And then it went like Nazi for a year or two. And then it went to where it is now, where it's kind of a mix, and it's super crowded. I won't get into the internationals. I always get in trouble when I bring up the internationals, but I'm sure you've had enough experience with them now, Jeff. You know what I'm talking about. People of different cultures. I don't care what the culture is, because they're all weird. They're just different than us. So they don't give a shit about walking in front of you. Like, they don't even care. It's not that they're being rude. I just don't think it's a thing. Like, there's too many people in these countries or something. They just don't even think about it. Or if you're like, you can have a camera pointed at something with lights. You're having a discussion with somebody and pointing at it, and they'll pick it up and fiddle with it. Like, they just, I don't think they're being rude. I just think they're different culture or something. Just have different politeness or ways of doing things. So at Media Day, that's super frustrating. You're trying to get video and do stuff. So when all the internationals started showing up, it got lamer, and they just don't figure things out, and they're not safe. And I know I'm putting a bunch of people on a pile.
Ghost and I were talking about this after the discussion Tuesday. Once we went off air, I won't name the brand, although actually I may. We'll see. We'll see how worked up I get as I talk about it. But we'd been standing in line for probably 10 minutes. And, you know, my rule for events like this is if you're there 5 minutes, you've just wasted 5 minutes. So, you know, if you're going to have to, it better be good if you're going to wait 5 minutes. We'd waited 10 minutes. And then some of these European folks breeze in and walk right up in front of us and take over the whole line, and basically didn't even look at us. And I'm hearing you say it's a cultural thing, and, you know, they don't even realize it, but I will never work with that brand now, because I felt so disrespected. So it's interesting to hear you say that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
You're using tact and decorum, but it's my show, and I'm going to tell you my story with Hudson, that goofy looking 1911 gun. Yeah. Right? So I'm at the booth, and I don't shoot much anymore. I figure I'm there. I've pulled triggers before. I don't need to get in line to pull a trigger, right? I'm not going to tell anybody anything about a trigger or nothing. So I don't, you know, get into the booths or whatever. I go to the shoot at least to bring everybody else there, because I got a van, and then to experience it. I like to see the size of it, and I don't know, just look at it, right? I don't get into playing. And there's always, you know, whatever. If I in like this, the Hudson, just sitting there, I'm walking around. Like last year, I was probably trying to get everybody to go to a Second Amendment rally or something. So I'm walking around, and I didn't anybody to talk to. I look over, and the Hudson booth totally empty, or there's like a person shooting in each side. Last year, you remember it had like a table on each side with the aluminum and the metal version. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go see what this is all about. There's a couple people on gun channels that won't shut up about that gun. So I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna shoot this thing because it is different, right? You need to shoot that gun to know what's so good about that gun. So I'm waiting in line. There's two tables with two guns. So you go up to a table, I guess they give you a mag for each and you shoot them, talk to them or whatever, do your video, right? So they figure that out. They give each table their own like little space, and so there's not like 12 people crowded around a table getting in your way. So they've got that all down. I'm waiting in line underneath the thing and they're not really paying attention to me. And then the one side or the other, I forget, is finished. So they're walking away. They're getting the new magazines on the table. The guy turns around and he freaking asked me to move out of the way so that these like two Japanese dudes can go walk right in. And I'm like, I didn't even know they were hardly there. And, they're walking right through. And I'm like, what happened to me? Right? I said something like that because I'm a dick. And I'm like, what happened to me or whatever? And then he's like, oh, these guys have cameras. I'm like holding my phone. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So, yeah, so that's my review of Hudson. I haven't reviewed their gun yet, except every time I have an opportunity, I tell that story because what the hell? I think that's messed up. So yeah, I know what you're saying.
Good.
Was there a range day when it was in Florida?
Yeah, the Florida range day was awesome. Holy moly! So Florida, 2009, right? Range day. We've got we flew, so it's a different experience for us. We're normally in our own car, right? So we flew, and then we got there, and our credit card wouldn't work. And he tried to use our credit card for the thing, and it was a debit card, and right, so we don't get a rental car. We're like, all right, we're trying to save money. Just spent $3,000 getting there or whatever. Eventually, I'm gonna spend $3,000. I'm cheap, so imagine me spending money to go to SHOT Show. So I'm, all right, well, I guess we're walking to the hotel. These guys are like, no, we're getting a cab. So we get to the hotel, and so we're in that situation. We don't have a car, and we're at the hotel, and then it's media day, and we're used to just driving to media day at this point. So we go on the little shuttle bus or whatever. So that's the first thing, is there's two shuttle buses because there's two range days. So luckily we had 3 people. So Greg went to one, me and Joe go to the other, and it was awesome, dude. It's like a police SWAT range. It is awesome. Greg went to the other one. He said it was awesome too, but we only have his pictures and his word for it. You could have potentially gone to both, but we were running around like spazzes at that one. Compared to Vegas, it was just so much different. Like it was in different areas, and and everybody was so nice to us there. Like, I don't know, trying to think, in 9, I guess, like I say, we were doing video, and that was new. And the Ruger, little ugly gun was new. That modular gun from Salt Lake City was new. All these people were really, really nice because we had video cameras, and that wasn't a thing. Like, nobody was walking around with video cameras. So at range day, where you're actually shooting and stuff, like, they were really nice to us. And it was just awesome. It was a police range or a SWAT range. So there's all this like cool SWAT stuff, like where they do their training, like shoot houses and aiming stuff, and you're shooting on that. Like at range at Vegas, you're just shooting on some range, like shooting in empty berms, like you're shooting in a cool cop range over there. And anyway, so yeah, 2009 in Florida, that was a pretty cool thing. Now I don't know, I hadn't gone to all the other places. I don't know when, I didn't finish the search in here, when Media Day started, but I don't think Media Day is from 76 or anything. That's probably when the police stuff started. I don't really know. Oh, there was also armadillos running around everywhere in this range.
Oh, did you shoot them?
No, they just were like walking around eating grass, or probably eating bugs out of the grass, I guess.
It'd be more fun if you could shoot them.
But I don't know armadillos in Florida. So anyway,
I don't know how fast armadillos move, though. May not be very sporting to shoot them.
No, they just stand there. They're like they were eating something. But like I said, there was 2 ranges, so like they had shuttles going back and forth, and it was like mostly hunting stuff at the other range. I guess maybe that's why I liked it too, because it was more like just the cool stuff, just the cop stuff and the CCW stuff at the range we went to. And then the other one was all the like long range and shotgun stuff. Okay,
so like when you started going, what, 2005? Is that right?
As media, yeah.
As media, was there always a range, no matter where it was? It was in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or wherever it was there always a range day associated at that point?
No, no, that's what I was saying. I don't think so. I don't know what to search for because the thing is, it used to be called. Well, now it's called Media Day at the Range, right? It used to be called Range Day, and there's been different names for it. So I don't know what to search for, like the oldest one.
They call it
gotcha.
Industry Day at the Range. This is the 14th annual SHOT Show Industry Day at the Range.
Oh, perfect. There we go. So it started in 5.
And it might have been under a different name, but it was the range day associated with SHOT Show, I'm assuming.
Oh, that might be what it is. I bet you there was always shoots because it's an industry, shooting industry. But I'll bet you that was the first time they gathered it under a roof. So maybe we were at the when we were at the first range day then.
Yeah, 2005. Yeah.
No, 6 was our first range day. So the first range day happened, and we were there, and then we got invited to it. I'm pretty sure by, well, if it wasn't from KVAR, it was somebody who worked at KVAR or somebody affiliated because we were in the AK club back then. So we got in through AK affiliation, and so cool. I didn't know that. Thanks for looking that up. Did you look that up, or was that like in the on the website or something?
It's in the if you go to the Industry Day at the Range site and go to About at the bottom, it says the event, and it talks about CMG marketing and that it's the 14th time they've done it. There's a little paragraph there to tell you about it.
Right on. So in 2006, 2006, they had these like, I guess you'd call them like I thought they were for like jails, like riot stuff, like koosh balls and weird looking rubber things that they cram into a 12 gauge and then shoot it. But you're supposed to shoot it at the floor in front of somebody, and then it bounces up into them, like into their nuts or into their knees or something. So I was fascinated because I like interesting, unique ammo or whatever, and it was in like clear shells, so you could see them in there. And then they had a bunch of them opened, and the idea was you were going to shoot them at steels, but you were supposed to like shoot them at the ground and bounce them up, to see what, so in other words, that you weren't just like, you could shoot them, I suppose, but the idea was to show a cop or somebody, they kind of shoot them up into the knees or the nuts of somebody, I guess. Anyway, I was just looking at the ammo, and then I didn't know no better to not ask. So I'm like, hey, do you mind if we get video? I'm going to go out there and stand there, and he'll shoot at me. You hold the camera. And in that days, it was like the 30-second burst on a digital camera. So it would have been like just a little GIF almost. It was like this little shitty, almost an animated slideshow kind of thing. So it took us a while. And I remember he was like, shot me once, just shot me. Boom. And he's like, oh, you're supposed to bounce it. I'm like, all right. Or he's like, all right. So he bounces and he misses me. And then I don't think he didn't seem to care, but I think he was trying to figure out which ammo. Like maybe he was trying to give him a different type of ammo that he would hit me easier with, or that shot better. So by the time he's farting around like the 3rd or 4th shot, and we're not that, like literally across like the first bay across from the safety like place, that little house, so like we're not even down a ways from him. We're like right across from him. I didn't even think one way or the other. So yeah, by the time when he got like the 3rd or 4th shot racked, like they're running over there, and I almost got kicked out of media day, and that would have been the 2nd media day. That would have sucked.
Wow.
That would have been a story.
I would have been like, here's my story about SHOT Show. I got kicked out on the 2nd one. But no, I just was like, oh, I didn't know. Anyway, so that was my little story about shotgun. So anybody got anything else? I don't know. We don't need to keep this going. Clover, have you been able to hear? You've been kind of bouncing in and out.
Yeah, I've been in and out. I've heard it off and on. It's given me something to listen to more than anything.
Right on. You're super clear right now, so I don't know if you wanted to throw anything in from anything we've been chatting about.
Yeah, we stopped at the Wally Mart to fill up. We had a bunch of Walmart gift cards because that's kind of what we got for Christmas, knowing that we could use them for fuel. So, and yeah, 374 a gallon filled this little dude up. So we're getting nearly 40 miles to the gallon in it too. So that's good.
How much a gallon?
$1.74.
Oh, I thought you said 374. Like, holy cow!
No, $1.74.
I got you. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, and at like I said, at 40 miles to the gallon, geez, it ain't gonna be much in fuel. So it was a pretty good. Gonna be worth the effort to drive out, I think. Hello, everybody. Oh no,
no, you're here. We're here. Just a pause. We were kind of chatting in the internal there.
I want to talk about something else.
Go ahead.
So we're talking about the history of SHOT and how it's changed over the years. What's the big change? What have they added this year?
The pop-up review on Wednesday.
Pop-up
review.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing I think that they've changed that I can think of.
I'm telling you, if I paid for a booth and then basically you stole a day from me by having a one-day thing that people are going to be drawn to, I'd be pissed.
You mean like if you're like any level, like you could be Spyderco and you're paying, you don't even want to think about what Spyderco's paying for that giant building they put up and all their employees. And then, you're going to put something that's going to draw all the media.
Going to divert people for a day because it's only one day. So everyone, if you're going to see them, you got to go then.
And then to them, I mean, again, hey, we're going to put you up here for one day. You got a potential of seeing 60,000. And you got 60,000 that might show up to that event, but each day it's some subset of that. And then, how many people show up for a couple of days or the last 2 days or the middle 2 days?
But don't you figure that, I mean, you've got supplier showcase too, and you got to figure that, a certain percentage of their clientele, the people they do business with, probably aren't messing with the supplier showcase. And then the same is probably true. And even if they do want to check it out, maybe they schedule certain things on Wednesday, knowing that that's going to be a little slower for them. So they actually schedule that with people that need that time with actually, say, Spyderco or whoever.
No, you're right. And I mean, Jeff is correct, but it's not for like the gun shops. Gun shops aren't going to go up to the new item stuff unless they're super bored, right? They're there to do whatever shopping and whatever discussing they need to do. So I think it's the media that they're diverting. Like if we're there for 3 days, now that's one of our days up there, or otherwise we're going to ignore it. Like we have to make a conscious decision to either ignore it or not. And that means those rooms up there, the people in that room up there, are going to either get us because we're there for 4 days and we can afford a day, or we have that much interest that we think it's worth a day. We prioritize it. But yeah, I don't know. And I'm sure that's why it's on the 5th floor and not because, it's efforted before they shove it. The new area that's been there for a long, long time, but that new area that's downstairs in the like foyer, whatever they call it, like where you first walk in, there's that area called new.
The new product center. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I consider it hasn't been there forever, but it's been there for many years now. It started in the old Vegas Convention Center. So it's kind of been there for a while, but that was an effort to put it in front of everybody. And it sort of seems like for a long time, they just had that there because of spite. Like, you're going to like this and we're going to keep putting it right in front of you, right? Because it was horrible. You couldn't take pictures in there. You had to sign in and, tell them what you were looking at. It was really weird. They were trying to do way too much marketing with it. It was just almost hostile to go in there. And you couldn't look at anything. It was all behind glass. So like, okay, here's some new thing that I can't record. I can't remember. And you're going to expect me to, like, I had to tell you, there was like obligations to going in there. It was weird. So anyway, they've done weird stuff with that, but they put that in the main floor. I think they put this on the 5th floor because they figure it's only going to be media that are even going up there. And that's, I'm guessing, how they sold it to those people, right? Like, hey, we're going to get you right next to the media people. We're going to tell them about it.
That and a couple things. Well, it doesn't get them right next to us, 3 or 4 above us, or 2 floors above us.
But the normal people that go to SHOT Show only walk in the front door and might go to the law enforcement room, but they certainly don't go up the elevators into the media room. Like, only us go up into the SHOT Show. Like, everybody else stays on the floor. So that's why it's up in our area of like we're to walk up where nobody else.
But I'm wondering a couple things. First of all, I've seen some of the companies that are up there do their own promotion and getting it out there that's where they'll be and blah blah blah. So that's good.
Oh yeah,
that they're taking it upon themselves. But my question for you, because I plan on at least sneaking up there at some point Tuesday for supplier showcase and just kind of walking around just for a little while, just to kind of experience that and take it in. But from what I'm looking at, as far as the map and the booths and stuff like that, the pop-up is not half the size of supplier showcase. So is it that many? How much you went to supplier showcase? Is that Is that whole ballroom or whatever it is, was it wall to wall with supplier showcase, or was it fairly sparse even then?
Well, you remember the big media room, or you think of media room, not I was in the big media room, the big law enforcement room, how it's just like 3 media rooms shoved together?
I've never been there, so yeah.
Oh, you didn't go to the law enforcement room either?
I didn't go last year, no.
So the media room, imagine a media room times 3. Like if they took out those divider walls and made it 3 times bigger, that's how big that room is up there. That's how big they made the room for that supplier showcase, and the edges of it, so probably equivalent of a whole room's worth, was chairs and like lunch, like places to eat, and then the middle. So it was probably like 2 media rooms worth that was actually stuff, and then it was just like being anywhere in SHOT Show. It was like the booths were the same size and everything. So definitely not the little pavilion thingies. But I've already seen some of the tables, like USN ER Doc, who's awesome. So back in the olden days when Nothing Fancy was the biggest channel, and then I don't remember who. I got bigger when I started going to places or whatever, and then I was the biggest channel. Nothing Fancy outdid me on a couple of things, and one of them was outreach. So he brought Such. So Such didn't exist until Nothing Fancy made them. The USN ER Doc, Wrangler Star. He brought all these people out to Utah and did a kind of get together with people that were creating gun content. And it was, people are going to say whatever they want to say because it's Nothing Fancy and because it was done, it was the first time doing it and it was clunky and kind of awkward and it wasn't perfect. But he fucking brought a bunch of people together that had never been done before. And he created Such, he created Wrangler Barn, he created USN ER Doc. Everybody knows what Such is. You probably know what Wrangler Star is or Barn or whatever the hell he's called. But USN ER Doc is legit. He's emergency. It was a USN doctor, right? Then Navy doctor, then an emergency room doctor, and in his YouTube hobby/project, he was one of the first to really give really cool, necessary, like prepper type of medical knowledge at a very insightful way, like enough knowledge but not to be dangerous, right? Or very well done. And then he's like one of these people like Hosh and like Clover that studies how YouTube is done. So his production value and his stuff is freaking on point. And he's got he's a woodworker, so he's got like that mentality and that craftsmanship to his stuff. So anyway, USN ER Doc. What the hell did I start even talking about them? I wanted to give a free plug to USN ER Doc. I guess it's because they've got a table upstairs, and I noticed that on their Instagram they posted a picture of it, and it seems like more than the pavilion, more than just a stand-up thing, but maybe not a
Yeah, it's more than a kiosk. Yeah, they're bigger than the kiosk.
Were you talking about supplier or pop-up?
We're talking about that room, that pop-up room.
The pop-up room. So it says at only $1,995 per 8x6.
Well, that's pretty big. 8x6. That's enough to put.
You can't afford not to be here. But the way they sold it was interesting because you were talking about where they got to be assuming it's just going to be media. It says so their sales page says show off your gear. The next heading, the next section is called show off to new buyers.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so they are really aiming this at, and they say, it's only one day. The exhibit space cost includes everything, so you don't get nickel and dimed. Simply bring your materials on Wednesday morning, set up in a matter of minutes, spend the rest of the day demoing and selling your products. No freight docks, no extended days of move in or move out, just sell. So it sounds to me like they've identified some of the things we talked about earlier about how the costs have gotten completely out of hand.
Yeah. Well, I've got a buddy of mine that's about an hour from here that started up a new business back in October, like literally started a business in October doing different stuff with ammo and stuff. And he's going to be there at the pop-up review. And he did it because it was the only way that he could afford to get to SHOT. He said the price was reasonable enough that he could do it for one day and then spend the rest of the time, on the floor, maybe doing other business. But for him, it was worth the money to get up there for one day, knowing that he'll get at least one day of exposure to the industry. So I was talking to him about that last week. And so he was very pleased with the idea of the pop-up review.
Well, here's the thing too. We're talking about the development of SHOT and its evolution and hopefully where it's going. And I would imagine now it's possible that they're just money grubbing. They figure, hey, that's empty space. We can lease it for $1,000 a day, and we can, rent it out for $17,000 a day, or whatever the math comes out to. But I suspect they might also be able to use us as a growing and dependable, adaptable media to encompass it. So in other words, yeah, it's going to be difficult for us to do all the stuff that's in SHOT Show and now another day's worth of exploring a room, at least for hours, if not for even longer, depending on how what kind of strategy you have. But perhaps they just figured, well, the media is so capable now, it's definitely, I mean, if I'm sure that would have been a crazy decision if it was only photographs and you literally were only there and you could take only so many photographs. But so many, well, I guess even people in this room are going with multiple people in their crew, right? And maybe they figure, hey, you're adaptable, you're efficient, and you got it, and you can figure things out. Like let's throw more at you and see what sticks. And again, it's like you said, the frustration has been, I mean, all the stuff about we've talked about. I don't need to mansplain it again, but you take that all times a half, because you only need one person there for one day. So now you can still have to fly to Vegas, but you only have to get one hotel room for one day.
Yeah. So for me, I've got a couple newbies going with me, and I wanted to be available to kind of help them figure out SHOT, show them around the building, show them how things work, where all the things are, get their feet wet, introduce them to a couple brands, have those conversations so they can see what's going on. So that's Tuesday for me. That means Wednesday is when I get to hit the floor to do my stuff. So I've got a bunch of meetings booked then. Thursday, so mainly Wednesday, a little bit on Thursday, and then Friday's the cleanup day where I'm trying not to schedule much. It's whatever I didn't get to before. And then I think it was midday today, it hit me. Wait a second. They got this thing that's only Wednesday, and my Wednesday is almost completely booked now. So, and I'm scrolling through the list of all the brands now, and I'm getting kind of pissed because there are a lot that I want to talk to, and I may not hardly get up there to see them at all.
And what's also frustrating is a brand that might show up for something like that just one day means they're probably showing up for just a day or two, right? They're not coming out for the week necessarily. So now your only opportunity to meet up with them might just be Wednesday, where if they were walking the floor instead, maybe they'd be there all week, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect, but that kind of caught, I didn't have appointments, but it caught me off guard with the supplier showcase. So the supplier showcase was, I guess, 3 years old. The first year it was Monday. So winning idea, put it on the same day as the shoot, knowing that there's other shoots in town. So effectively no media is going to have, unless they're really nerdy into materials, like no media is going to show up at all. And now you've got to have people that are attending the show up a day early, where if they're not media, normally they wouldn't show up a day early, right? They'd show up for the show. So they put that supplier showcase on Monday the first year, and that had to be a miserable failure, I'm assuming, because then last 2 years now they've had it Monday and Tuesday. So now we have an opportunity to see it Tuesday, and I forgot who told it to me last year. Joe? I don't know. Some of you guys told me, hey, did you go upstairs? I'm like, what do you mean upstairs? And, I want to see something new. That's what I'm there to see, the show expand and develop, right? So I go up there. That was one of my favorite things ever. Not here to just explain SHOT Show, but yeah, it's all the stuff that they make either by printing and crazy levels of extreme scale, like tiny little things and really big things, different types of materials for blades or files and things, whatever, all this like nylon and zippers and all that stuff that's normally kind of just randomly spread throughout SHOT, just really chaotically sometimes. They put all that in one place, which seems to me like an excellent idea. I don't know why they don't zone it out more anyway. But so it was all that stuff. Like if you wanted to get your own nylon gear made, there was those kind of people there. Like, they could say, oh, okay, that design is going to cost you this much and it'll take this long and that kind of thing. So it was a really cool little room. And so it's upstairs, 2 floors above media. So media room is on like the 3rd floor, I guess.
It's on 5 then, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I'm looking at that page now.
4 was Amazon, like the company Amazon had the fourth floor for some reason. Now, I don't know if that's coincidence or if Amazon's snooping around on what we're doing. I don't know. But anyway, Amazon had the fourth floor, and we were not allowed. I usually like to go poop on the fourth floor. Couldn't go on the fourth floor. So now you had to go to the fifth floor, and that's where all this stuff is. So I don't know how many floors there are. I think there's only 6, so, or maybe 5 even. So it's up, and they must have figured out, hey, we got this extra space. Let's put everybody up there. And anyway, so I guess the other thing I was going to say is it's up on that 5th floor, and they had, like I was saying, food. They had, I don't know what it was, some kind of meat where you put like, it was like, you know how when you go to like a store and they'll have like a salad with some meat, like a handful of meat on top of it, and then they'll just switch out what meat it is. So it'll be like, oh, it's a chef salad. Oh, it's a spaghetti salad or whatever the hell salads they make. And then they're all like $5. It was that kind of thing. Like they had some drinks and then these like kind of packaged sandwich salad combo things, and didn't look all that appetizing, but I imagine as an alternative to driving or walking all the way down to the basement and eating in those places, or walking all the way over to the little village and eating in the food court. You know, that was a place you could go look at all your stuff and then sit and have a break, because unlike the basement where you can't even find a seat when it's lunchtime, this place was empty. I think I might have been there in the afternoon though, so maybe it was empty because it was the time of day. But anyway, so I think what they were trying to do is give people a place to go and then hang for a bit, and like give them an extra place to rest. Like that was their like bonus. Hey, you can also get food up there and rest. There's like chairs to sit down at, which isn't, I guess no one ever really talks about it. There's nowhere to sit down.
That's like the NSSF lounge though, right? So you can go in. So here's the rookie mistake I made. First time I went to SHOT is reading all the literature. It said they had food in the NSSF lounge and seats, you know, so you could get your food to the table, eat. They serve lunch in there. And I knew in the press room they had breakfast. Well, you don't pay for breakfast in the press room. I figured it's only for NSSF members. They said it's a perk of membership, is you get to go eat in the NSSF lounge. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to pay my money to get the membership so that I can get a free lunch every day. Then I get in there and it's nowhere near a free lunch.
Yeah, it's just the opportunity to eat their overpriced food instead of the downstairs basement's overpriced food.
Yeah, and it's not as crowded.
But you're on the right track, because it used to be that. That's what the old timers would tell me back in the day. Once you've experienced it now, I'm sure, and all of you guys have really, when you've gone to shows in multiple states in multiple years, as soon as, like we were all kind of mentioning, these people that work for the shows, they're either the owners of the company or the people that their job is to go travel. So they're going to recognize you at some point, right? Damn it, what were we talking about? Food. Trying to read and talk and it never works well. Where are we going? The basement and the food. Oh yeah, back in the olden days, the old timers would tell us, once they saw us at SHOT for a few years, even though they didn't understand what we were doing with this internet, they would they'd be like, oh, you got to show up on like, you know, Wednesday, whenever the states, that's what they would tell me, like whenever the states are offering a breakfast, you want to go there. So like Montana will have a breakfast, or Iowa, like states got all the money, and they're competing with every other state, I guess. So they feed you good. So what we figured out, and here's a little trick. I don't know if it applies anymore, but it worked for us for years. Keep in mind, we used to sometimes be where we'd walk to it. Nowadays we drive to it. So I don't know if this is the same anymore, but those breakfasts or whatever, the states would have like a breakfast for media. And it seemed like each year it was just a different state would sponsor it. And it was probably an NSSF state of the state type of thing, but each state would sponsor it. So we'd be like, oh, Wisconsin's paying us for, you know, giving us breakfast or whatever. So if you get there, not for the breakfast, because the breakfast is kind of like a timeshare. They're feeding you, but they're telling you stuff the whole time. You're like listening to a speech the whole time. But if you get there at the end of it, you can still eat.
That's the cool thing about the new product breakfast, is if you get there early, you got to listen to Tim talk about USCCA. But if you roll in, you time it right, you roll in right as he's saying, okay, thanks for listening to me, and go enjoy your breakfast.
So you've been to that one. That's one of the things I have not experienced yet, and I've been wondering if it's worth it. So is it worth it?
So what I like about it is the free breakfast that's different than what's in the media room. And I've met some people, like I actually had a writer call me today that I met at that breakfast 2 or 3 years ago, and he wants to talk at SHOT about doing some writing with Gear Report. So it was good from a networking standpoint because you're sitting, it's just media, so you're at 6 or 8 top tables with other media. So that's good. You get to meet people. But what I really liked is what you said about the new product area being difficult. It's not as difficult as it was earlier, it sounds like, because it's better lit and it's not as tightly controlled. You can walk through to what you want. But generally speaking, as I understand it, you're still not allowed to take pictures and video in the new product area, except when you go during the new product breakfast. No holds barred right then. You can take video, you can take pictures, you can do whatever you want.
See, that's why I was thinking that seems attractive because, like you say, you get breakfast. I like eating for free. And then what I liked is that you get to walk around the new product area. So that's basically everybody who had enough money to pay for their product to be over there, to at least their new product to be over there. So you don't have to go anywhere. It's like a little tiny room. You walk around, you take all your pictures, all your video. You've just seen everything in SHOT Show that's basically, above any threshold.
So from a content creator standpoint, when I first looked at it and went to look at it, it was one of those, well, what's the point? If I can't take pictures of video, why am I even going to walk through here? But then when you go to the breakfast and you're allowed to, you can get the camera rolling and do a, kind of quick pass. It may turn out to be a 15-minute video, but people will see a little bit of everything that's in there. And, I think as far as how YouTube works and some of the different platforms where if people stop the video and step back to look at something again, you get kind of points for that. And you keep a good pace where you're going slow enough that they can stop and go, oh, what was that? Let me go look at that again. I mean, that could be a really good use of your time. Someone watches that, they're going to see all of those, maybe not all of the new innovative stuff, but from the brands who have the money to put their stuff down there. I think it's a very good, efficient way to use your time if you can get in at a time when they'll let you take pictures. So I've gone back outside of that time before, and I just take pictures and video, whatever I want. And I've had a couple security people kind of give me a sideways look, but I just look back and then keep doing what I'm doing, and no one's ever stopped me.
Now, do you eat down there in the new product area?
You don't eat among the products. They have a table. They have a table area that's set up where you get your food, you eat at those tables while people are talking. When you're done with that, then you can go through, around a little barrier, and now you're in the new product area. So yeah, you're not carrying food around in there with you.
So that's interesting. So we're talking about evolution and development of SHOT Show here, and that's something that when I talked about that, well, you know what? Now I know that it's the second year of the media shoot. That puts a whole new light on it. So back then, though, and it was for a few years. It took until 10 or something that they got rid of like catered food, and at a time like 12 o'clock, all the lines close and go eat. Anyway, that's that aspect though, where you're sitting around with all media, because at the media day, guess what? It's all media. Because nobody was there. Maybe there was a couple of people from the booth, but it didn't seem like the people from the industry. They went and eat somewhere else. I think this was just the people in that tent were just us. And talk about networking. For us, at least it was a bunch of authors, like talking to all kinds of authors. Gunbroker used to hang out there. They were smaller then, obviously. So that was part of the media day that I didn't even think about until you mentioned that, and it's lacking now because they don't feed you. They just have food carts that you can pay for food at, and buy it and walk around with a hot dog sandwich kind of thing.
Where?
At media day.
At media day, you get a ticket when you go in, and you can use that for coffee and then another ticket for food trucks, I believe.
But again, you're walking around with like a hot dog sandwich or a pretzel, just walking around like at a fair, as opposed to, okay, everybody stop and let's eat for an hour.
It's when you want. It's not like all the food's ready and you go sit together. They do still have that tent with the tables set up in it, but most people don't even go in it.
Oh, okay. Well, exactly. See, so that tent with the tables in it. Now imagine, again, I'm not a meat eater, so I can't tell you exactly, but I know that they had like big thing that looks like a cement truck, you know, full of barbecue or whatever. So at whatever 8 in the morning when the thing starts, the place starts smelling like barbecue and all the beans and all the stuff they're making, because it was like the, you know, old school, like, we're going to cater it by making it here at 8 o'clock in the morning and it's ready at noon kind of thing. So all day long, everybody's just like waiting for this. And then, you know, you shoot a bunch, and there was no half day stuff. It was all day. So, you know, people that got there, and then everybody stops and eats. And like I say, the pace was just different, and you had that opportunity to just chat. And the food was, I keep talking about it, but it was so satisfying, and in part, you know, it was part of the experience that everybody was just happy. It wasn't like a, you know, oh, I'm eating some kind of chemical thing, or, you know, like the discussions about the forks, you know, it was just like comfortable and plenty of food and everything. And everybody was just super happy, which is what they were doing. They were sucking up to us, make us all super happy. So then we go out the rest of the afternoon and yeah, I didn't think about that, but that was something.
And now it's you're waiting in line at a food truck and looking at your watch the whole time. Like, well, come on, I got stuff to do. You know?
Seriously, I was waiting for that free coffee cup from, we should give them a plug. Was it
Sol Invictus is doing the lunch. Let's see.
Who's the
water bottles by Media Lodge. Pelican has the coolers.
I can't think of the cup company. Yeti would give you a coffee cup full of coffee. So yeah, exactly. You're waiting in line, and the thing is, they have 10 gallons of coffee for 2,500 people. So if you don't get in line immediately when you get there, you're not getting a cup of hot coffee. You'll get a cup until they run out, and they have a bunch. But anyway, so I'm waiting in line for that cup because I want some coffee. And yeah, exactly. It's not the same as when you're waiting for a moment or two in a buffet line, and then you're looking for a table, and now you're sitting, and these were big round tables. Like, they were, you know, conducive to networking. You have to sit down. Even the biggest group of people is sitting down with someone else. Yeah, you're standing in line for coffee. Like you say, I'm watching the conversation of some people in front of me, and I'm, you know, looking for something on the phone. So it's just a whole different environment. So that's awesome. I'm glad that the live thing has that element to it.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm hoping all my guys did the thing quick enough, because that's when that email shows up, I sent it out and said, sign up for this right now. Don't wait an hour. Don't wait till this evening. It'll be full. So I don't know how many of them actually made it.
I think I signed up, even though I was tentative on if I was even going. I figured I'd sign up because I was interested in that opportunity to see all the new stuff. Because I really like the concept of the new. It just drives me nuts how they're so weird about it. And okay, so I guess we got off on a tangent talking about the room upstairs. I don't know if everybody went to Gary's chat. So we're running this kind of rogue live on a Friday. Ghost Tactical had a chat earlier this week. Jeff and I, Clover, we're all in it. I don't remember if Clover was in it, but some
Mike was there too.
And yeah, Mike was there. So we were talking. Oh, it was a SHOT Show. So we had some guys in there that had been. Well, it was more than SHOT, wasn't it? Maybe it was. I've been having so many shows this week. Anyhow, we were chatting to some guys that had been SHOT Show for a while. Rob Pincus contacted me after the show and said, "Hey, let's do something about old SHOT Shows or historic SHOT Shows." So I set this room up and sent some links out, and we've been running for a while. However, I set this one up between Budget Guns and Gear, who does a show on Fridays over on Gun Channels, and I kind of stepped on the last hour of his show. And then Gary, who was in the show earlier, jumped out, and he starts his Foul Territory live show on Fridays right now. So he's starting that show over on Gun Channels as well. So I don't know how many audience we lost with that one, but I'll keep talking forever about SHOT Show.
I'm getting tired, so it's about time for me to check out and go. The thing I got to be careful of this time of year is I get so focused on SHOT Show prep, and then I'm at SHOT Show, and then for the next week or two after, I'm trying to do all my follow-up. I still got a wife and 3 kids I got to pay attention to, so I got to consciously remember, all right, focus on getting the business done because that's what you have to do, but don't forget you got a family that needs some time also.
Man, that's an excellent point. And we're all leaving, so that's time on each end. We're gone for a week, and often, you know, we're not picking up the phone to chat with everybody because we're busy doing stuff. And again, that's something that we try to talk about in these shows to keep the transparency and to give people some encouragement, because nobody's doing this as a superhero. Nobody went to school. Nobody's reading a blueprint. on how to do this or some recipe. We're all figuring it out, and that's part of the juggling, right? Is to maintain financial and happy home life during all of it. And it's not any fun if you're doing something just because the equation works and it's it's a job, and it gets boring, and it's no fun if there's consequences. So yeah, it's all about that balance. So I guess that's a little bit different, but I don't know. That's one of the things about NRA that's interesting compared to SHOT Shows, how it moves, and SHOT Show stays in one place. But we could talk about stuff forever. Like I say, well, let's end it. That was about an hour-ish, and we'll do another one. I'll get with.
What you meant is that was about 2 hours-ish.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
There we go. So, one is two is one. So we'll get Pincus and some of those guys that have been going to SHOT Show for like 20-something years on, and I really want to hear from people who've been around to hear what the 80s shows were like. I hear they were wild, and just the development of the media is interesting to me since I was around for some of this. You've all been around for most of it too. So as you view the stuff that's out there, remember that we're not reading a magazine, and we're not left with all we can do is put the magazine down and have an opinion. We have interactivity beyond the level anyone's ever had before. You can comment on a video. You can share of something content that you think is interesting. You can participate in the discussion at the end of a blog. You can put a link to someone's video that explains something on a blog post. You can post a blog on someone's video description. Being aware of your potential as a person who views, and the influence that has on the logarithms that run all this stuff and recommend what's out there, and how many people are viewing versus how many people are actively participating is something that we try to keep people aware of. So one of the reasons I did this show and continue to do these shows is that we remember as audience, when we participate in viewing these things, we're influencing all that stuff that's being recorded, all those metrics and analytics, and we can be passive about it and just be blips on a radar, or we can be active in our participation with the content that's being created, which not only reinforces it to the human being on the other end of the internet that's creating that content, which I can tell you as a creator is always appreciated and necessary for us to continue with the motivation, like we've kind of talked about today, to do these kind of things for length of time, but also with the flip the internet over and look at those tubes that Al Gore made. Those are the little robots and stuff on there that keep track of what's interesting and what people are searching for. And if you are aware that you have influence there, then we as an audience grow stronger, and going forward we're less a victim, or less prone to be the victim of savvy people on the other side. So it's a little extra encouragement to get out there and participate in the people that are posting SHOT Show videos. We want to give you some insight to how much effort and cost and frustration there might be. It's not all fun, but it's also the funnest thing ever. So the Second Amendment is the industry to a large extent, and the industry gets together in one town for 1 week every year. It's been going on since the 70s, and we can all be part of it. I'll shut up and let you guys each talk. You guys are all going to be there. I'll go Clover, then Mike, then Jeff, and then we'll wrap the show up. So Clover, if you're still there, if you got good internet, take as much.
It's good for now. It seems like it's hit and miss. So.
Right on. Take as much time as you want. I've been chatting all night.
I'm not going to take a whole lot of time, man. I'm on the road, looking forward to seeing everybody in a day or maybe two, and yeah, looking forward to seeing comments and interaction and stuff like that as we do our SHOT Show thing.
Right on. Drive safe, and we'll see you in a bit.
Right.
Mike. Take as much time as you want. Been kind of quiet. Got as much time as you want. You got the mic.
Well, he's not snoring, so maybe he didn't fall asleep.
Maybe his mic cut out. Jeff?
Yeah.
Can you line this up?
Yeah, I think thanks for doing this. I think it was a neat discussion, and I think it's great to get to know other people and their experiences. And I learned a number of things. I think they're going to impact how I and my team do things at SHOT Show. Some of them just hearing some historical stuff and making me think about things a little bit differently. Like I probably wouldn't consider going in the supplier showcase, and now I'm thinking, you know what, I need to at least send one person through there to get some pictures, a little bit of video, just because it's cool and the kind of thing that people don't normally get to see. Because there's a company that I remember a couple years ago. I don't know if they do it every year, but they had a CNC machine set up on the floor downstairs. And it was cool because I had seen them run before, but it was always in a place where they wouldn't let me do video. So I actually got some video I got to share with people on, hey, look at this. They're making, I think they were making upper receiver for a bolt gun in that one, but they were actually making gun parts right there on the floor. And that was really neat to be able to share that with people. So it sounds like that could be something worth doing. Yeah, definitely learned some stuff. Looking forward to seeing everyone out there. So please travel safe. And I told my team that we may be getting together with you guys for some things throughout the show. I know there was a discussion about maybe doing something live on Sunday, and then in the evenings of the show doing kind of like a live wrap up thing. So we're booked some nights and not others. Oh, excuse me. But I certainly hope we have an opportunity to hop on and do some of that live chat and share the show in real time while we have time to get feedback from the audience that may impact what we do the next day.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I guess I am going to break the rule and talk again, that we didn't talk about when I was kind of going through the years. But yeah, the feedback from the viewer, the people who are out there absorbing your content, as that went from forums to websites and forums to YouTube and YouTube comments, and then to the social media platforms, and now all the instant and live features out there, the participation from the audience and the influence that the audience had changed a lot. So at first it would be, I'd go to SHOT Show 2005 and people would say, I don't like your pictures, they're too dark, or get closer, take a picture of the other side, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. And then I went back to 6 and 6, and now I'm taking pictures of both sides of the guns. And I figured, hey, if I'm going to take all these pictures, I might as well start a website that archives, such and such. So, now I'm doing a little bit more, and now people can say, oh, hey, you're doing all that, do this. And so you can explore lots of different stuff based on your audience's preference and whatever. And then whatever you're doing is out there, and now somebody else comes along and may never comment, but might see, oh, okay, if I take pictures from both sides, that's better. And now they influence their stuff. So it's interesting that you bring that up, that I guess how much influence the audience had, as well as how quickly that feedback gets either to the creator or from the creator back to the whatever the origin of it is, the manufacturer or whatever. It doesn't even exist anymore. You could literally walk up to a booth, take a picture, put it on Instagram. Somebody could tag that on Instagram, and somebody could walk down the stairs and change something in their booth, in less time than it took me to almost say all that, right?
Yeah.
So it's neat. It's neat. And the best part is we're not at the whim of all this. We're in the middle of it in a canoe with paddles. We've got phones and we've got mastery of this stuff at various levels. Like you say, we're collaborating and sharing. So it's ours to master, and we can either, I keep saying, we can either have the best seats in the house to watch the exact same thing happen every time, or we can use these tools, these massive tools that we have compared to the old days, and influence. If somebody posts something and you do nothing but look at the post, let's say on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or wherever, on a blog, and you do nothing but look at it, that's a view. But if you put a comment in there, thanks for posting this, I'm so glad they were at the show, like this is so innovative. Now there's some reason for that person to check out what's online and to start understanding that they get valid input from the internet. So yeah, there's lots of potential out there. yeah, you're welcome. We've figured over the years, you know, having new people show up at SHOT Show and trying to figure out, you know, keep up with tech, and just like you say, there's so many different appointments and things. Schedules are so crazy and things change. So keeping up with, you know, the chaos of it all. I think what we're going to try to attempt this year is to each night have a live chat like this one, open and just available, so that we can all jump in, touch base, and that way there's no, like, I don't know why Clover decided not to go into law enforcement, but I don't think he was told not to. But Ghost was told not to go into the law enforcement rooms his first day, and since we hadn't had an opportunity to chat, you know, until a Thursday night, and I didn't even know about it because he didn't bring it up. I didn't know until after SHOT Show that he was told not to go into the law enforcement rooms.
Well, I can answer the question on my end. It's simple.
Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I figured law enforcement, military stuff was probably a lot of, you know, tactical operator gear, whatever stuff, and I just not into that, so didn't worry about it. Where I'm definitely going to go this year is over the last year I've made some contacts, and that's where their booths are, and it's suppressors and it's things like that that, you know, I would use and enjoy looking at and all that kind of stuff. So there's more to it than just that. And I kind of had the wrong perception last year.
Well, okay, and that's all. So I figured by touching base, and, you know, just so we can all, while we're there, because how frustrating is it after you just spend all that time and effort that we're trying to explain, you get home and then you find out that you were standing right next to something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to again say thanks again for everybody for joining us, and everybody safe travels. As the audience, I'm going to again urge you to understand your opportunity / obligation / responsibility / I don't know. I'm going to say again, opportunity, because it's just so fun to be able to have you know, influence in what's out there. So consider this year, if you haven't before, the year that you're going to start interacting with the content from SHOT Show. Make SHOT Show different. If I guess I'm talking to the people out there because I do so much SHOT Show content. I get a lot of the people who are sick of seeing SHOT Show coverage. Well, there's nothing about anything that's being done anymore that you have to sit back and complain about it. You have influence. So encouraging again the audiences out there who might be watching this or sick of hearing it, but for the people that might casually hear this and it spurs something, be part of this new media. All right, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you at SHOT.
Thanks.